Hello, my name is Devon Robinson, and today I will be discussing how spanking has perpetuated the slave mentality in the African American community. Thank you.
Episode of Blackish. ABC's Marcy Abacampo examined the arguments.
Jack, where are you, Jack?
On ABC's Blackish Wednesday night, a common parenting predicament.
When we get home, your father is going to spank you.
To spank or not to spank. Characters Dre and his wife Bo disagreeing on whether or not their misbehaving son should meet the belt.
If you want to spank him so bad, why don't you do it yourself?
Because you're the spanker, Dre.
Even taking the question to coworkers.
Who thinks they were better off being spanked?
Oh, amen.
While this isn't real, for many the dilemma is. The episode sparking a conversation online. One viewer tweeting, "No spanking in my house." Another posting, "Personally, I'm glad I got spankings."
It's actually really
That she hit. But before we ask those questions, we have to ask, where did this form of punishment so common in the African American community come from? Like myself, many African American children grow up in predominantly black environments, which can create a perception that spanking is just a commonly used form by angry black mothers, when in fact it really isn't. According to Parents Magazine, 4 out of 5 parents still spank their children as a form of punishment. The question of punishment has always been a controversial matter when it comes to parenting, because people have the right to have a child, thus they have a right to discipline them as they may. The question of when the inflicted punishment goes beyond the committed crime has always been a balance, not only in parents but for the Department of Justice themselves. Often we view punishment as a natural reaction when someone commits a wrong. But some punishments can give lasting mental and physical damages that we can't even see. One of the core reasons we utilize the use of punishment is because punishment brings control. Ultimately, the punishments of present society exist as a means to control and regulate an individual's behavior. When a man strikes his male or female slave with a rod so hard that the slave dies under his hand, he shall be punished. If, however, the slave survives for 1 day or 2, he is not to be punished, since the slave is in his own property. Now that is a selection from Exodus 21, verses 20 through 21. Many slave masters back in the day lived by this scripture as a justification for their practices on slaves and whipping them. Similarly, many slave mothers used the technique of whipping or spanking not as a means of control or divine right, but often to protect their child, their slave child, from being brutally hit by the slave master. Now, if a slave master viewed a mother punishing her child, they would have looked at the slave as more obedient. Therefore, whipping and hitting a child as a form of discipline often was a visual way of slaves showing the slave master that they had what it takes to discipline their child. Study after study shows us that children who experience physical abuse develop detrimental effects to their brain, including slow cognitive development and a increased likelihood to addictive, depressive, and criminal behavior. Now, not only do these methods perpetuate the wretched methods used on slaves by white slave masters, these practices are destructive as a people and destructive to our children, which we hope one day will make this world a better place and a better environment. Thank you. African Americans have always tried to find their place in America, but the only way that we truly can is to abandon the practices inflicted upon us by our white slave owners. This ideology still rings true in the African American community today, with the recent uprising of the Aderson Peterson case as an example. As a people, we must remove ourselves from the practices that were used on us. Spanking was not used lightheartedly by slave masters as a slap on the wrist. It was meant to destroy slaves not only physically, but spiritually. And so, why would we ever want to do this to our children?